Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. And if I could be so bold as to ask a quick favor, I don't do this often, but if you have a second, do you mind, if you're an Apple Podcast consumer or you're a Spotify user, could you leave a written review and a 5-star review of this podcast? It helps others learn about it and spread the good word. We're so appreciative. And thanks a lot for choosing this show, as you do each and every day, consistently making this one of the top-performing news commentary podcasts out there in the universe of all there is to choose from these days. And I thank our sponsor now for years, John Ruhlman, who has been basically the principal sponsor of this show and has helped so many of you in this audience, most importantly. The reason I love doing business with John and the team at U.S. Medical Plan is because they really help people in this audience. I'm not just talking about people that I've heard from through email. I'm talking about people in my own life. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, my own parents. I sent my parents to John and his team when they were looking for supplemental insurance with their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. That's my senior parents, all right? I have a personal friend who had a daughter with some special health needs. He was spending tons of money a month on private health insurance for them. John got him a better plan, saved him $1,000 a month. I have colleagues that have saved hundreds of dollars a month. If you're a small business owner and you supply insurance for your employees, that's a generous thing to do. Is it really expensive? And you're thinking, maybe I can't do it anymore? Wait. Call John. Reach out to his team. They shop with 100 different private health insurers all over the country. If you're an Obamacare user, that is not getting any cheaper this year. I can already tell you it's going to go up, up, up. There are private health insurance companies out there that have much lower rates than you think and cover everything that you need. I know people assume if it's cheaper, it means less coverage. Not necessarily. Or it may be that you have the best coverage going, but you're not going to know until you reach out. Please turn to the team at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or give them a call today, 877-410-4321. That's 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. Wow. Hey, good morning, folks. Welcome in on this Monday, this historic, really special Monday of the Stigall Show. Thanks for listening on great affiliates all over the country. Chicago, we're looking at you this morning on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for listening on AM 560, The Answer, or wherever you happen to be listening. This is really remarkable. President Trump is seated before the Israeli parliament as we speak, and at present they are giving him round after round after round, him and his team, a standing ovation for what is nothing short of unprecedented. It even has some of his harshest critics admitting Friday heading into the weekend that this is something that nobody really thought achievable. Some 2,000 hostages going to be released by the Israelis. That is underway, as I understand it. The New York Times reporting Israel says first hostages have been released in a swap. 7 Israeli hostages freed by Hamas this morning as part of a ceasefire in Gaza, the Israeli military said, starting an exchange that is also expected to release nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. The release of the first hostages, a critical step in a deal between Israel and Hamas that took effect on Friday, as you know, and we covered here. Just reading some more of the details. This from Axios. Israeli hostages, most of them civilians, were held in captivity in Gaza for more than 2 years. Finally, all of the hostages who survived are now free. That is remarkable. And I suspect there are many people who never imagined this day. And yet here we are. Hamas had to release all 20 of the hostages who were living by today at noon, according to the agreement, and they've done so. The first group of 7 hostages released shortly after 8 a.m. local time there in Israel. Hostages transferred by Hamas to the Red Cross delivered them to Israeli forces inside Gaza. The other 13 were released 2 hours later before the second group was released. hostages taken to a military base outside the Gaza Strip to be reunited with their families. Most of the past 2 years, the hostages were spending their time in underground tunnels with very little food or water, almost no medical care for the wounds they suffered during the Hamas October 7th attacks. 20 families are spared the unbearable pain of not knowing if they will ever see loved ones again, said White House envoy Steve Witkoff, who, by the way, was also heralded time and again. Lots of standing oaths for Witkoff. This from the Free Beacon. Thank you, Witkoff. Thank you, Trump. Those were the cheers that could be heard in Tel Aviv's Hostage Square over the weekend as Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, chief negotiators of President Trump's Gaza peace plan, addressing a cheering crowd, praised the amazing soldiers of the IDF, saying that without their heroism and brilliance and bravery, this deal would not be possible. Kushner emerged as a leading figure in the deal after facilitating the Abraham Accords during the first Trump administration, said he would not be able to celebrate until Hamas officially released all the hostages, which, of course, now they have, as we read. And it's amazing, we're looking at these live shots this morning. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you're seeing it right along with us. President Trump is seated there before the Israeli parliament. They're speaking right now in Hebrew, so we're not going to carry it until President Trump speaks up. But as they take live shots of the crowd and the gallery there in the parliament, what's really remarkable is to see the number of red hats. You can presume they are MAGA hats, but there are lots of red hats in the Israeli parliament this morning. This is really special, what we're watching. I mean, it's special enough that even, as I said, some of the president's most strident critics had to acknowledge it. We will jump in, of course, when the president starts to speak. Friday there was a lot made about him not receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, and Larry O'Connor and I were talking about this over at Town Hall on Friday. There are a couple of things, and I know the president and some others said, he deserved it, and I can't believe it went to somebody else. This Maria Corina Machado lady, who I don't know, but apparently is doing great work in Venezuela, but nobody had heard of her, and people thought, when you pull something like this off, why wouldn't the president of the United States get the Nobel Peace Prize? Well, as it turns out, and the rules are pretty readily available and easy to find, the Nobel people only pick the winner on the first of the year in January. So, or I guess the nominations anyway, have to be in by the first of the year. So, said another way, excuse me, President Trump couldn't have won it because the time to submit all of the nominations had already expired some months ago. Excuse me, folks. And so, President Trump not eligible for this one, but maybe for the next one. Let's play some of the praise for President Trump. While I'm not emotional, although I could be. This is pretty cool today. Senator John Fetterman, let's start with him in clip 51, him commending the president on this.
How can we all celebrate this thing? I mean, you've had human beings held underground for over 2 years and tortured and beaten and starved, forced to dig their own graves and things. Now they can finally come back home. And now everyone should be celebrating these things. And clearly the Palestinians are, and people in Israel are too. And now there are people in our nation, some of those aren't really celebrating or even acknowledging a thing. And that's part of the truth there too. It really was never about peace. It was more about an anti-Israel agenda. And now, why can't we all, whatever, where you are politically, this is a huge development, and this terrible, awful war is going to come to an end. And now you can rebuild Gaza, and these families are now reunited. That's a big thing, and it's a strange time if you can't celebrate this.
Yeah, and I saw your tweet, congratulating President Trump on this incredible moment in time. It really is a head scratcher, as you see some people just refusing to acknowledge what an incredible moment this is after this 2 years. I
agree. It's like I even said that in that in my tweet. It's like, yeah, our party's different, but this is a big, huge win for peace in this world, and it's entirely appropriate to do that. And if you're not willing to acknowledge that, you're ironically pointing out the absurdity and making it more personal when we can't all celebrate this peace after this awful war after 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, well said by the Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who has at least verbally been sidling up to Trump more. Although, I mean, he's I think just saying what any sane person would, that ending this war and bringing hostages home is something to celebrate no matter your party. However, he says, who wouldn't support this? Who wouldn't celebrate it? Well, the guy who hates Israel probably more than just about any American in a prominent spot, Barack Hussein Obama. That's who. He posted 3 days ago, after 2 years of unimaginable loss and suffering for Israeli families and the people of Gaza, we should be encouraged and relieved that an end to the conflict is within sight. Those hostages still being held will be reunited with their families. Vital aid can start reaching Gaza. More than that, though, it now falls on Israelis and Palestinians, with the support of the United States and the entire community, to begin the hard task of rebuilding Gaza and to commit to the process that blah, 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 blah. Now, remember, this is a guy who gave pallets of cash to Iran. This is a guy who, when Benjamin Netanyahu came to visit the United States, he turned his back and refused to meet with him. So Barack Obama uniquely hates Israel anyway. He certainly hates Donald Trump. I mean, he weaponized his administration against Donald Trump. So are we going to expect much from him? Certainly not. Abby Phillip over at CNN couldn't help but notice this. Abby Phillip on CNN, I said, couldn't help but notice this in clip number 55. Listen to this.
President Obama put out this post talking about the peace deal and the prospects of it, and Don Jr. responded to it. I'll finish it for you. Thank you, Donald Trump. Honestly, it's not unfair to say if President Obama's going to write a whole post about a peace deal, maybe he should acknowledge the president that brokered it.
Yeah, I mean, since then, he's posted about thanking Sister Jean and how March Madness won't be the same without Sister Jean, and he's thinking about the Loyola University Chicago community. He was effusive in his praise for the actual Nobel Peace Prize winner, who, by the way, thanked President Trump. To be fair to her, Maria Corina Machado said President Trump actually deserves this thing they're giving me today. Pretty classy act. In clip 52,
they decided to dedicate it to President Trump because he deserves it. Because not only has he been involved in only a few months in solving 8 wars, but his actions have been decisive to have Venezuela now at a threshold of freedom after 26 years of tyranny that have destroyed the lives of millions of Venezuela, destabilize the region, and undermine the institutions in the United States, because having Venezuela as a safe haven of the enemies of the United States and using our territory and our resources to hurt the American people and American institutions is certainly a threat to the national security of the United States.
Yeah. And so there you have it. This year's Nobel Peace Prize winner is dedicating it to President Trump. We're going to carry his remarks as they happen here live during the show. And, of course, your calls at 855-STIGAL. Quick break. Stick around for this historic morning on the Stigall Show. Good to be with you, folks. Welcome in. Looking live at Boston this morning on the Salem News Channel. That nor'easter rolling up the coast. Fast Eddie caught in that this weekend. I hated to hear that. Trying to get away, enjoying some time down the shore. And not only caught up in the nor'easter, feeling a little under the weather, too. A little getaway ruined by a nor'easter. But you know what? You're tough. You never, ever, you don't mope, you don't complain. You show up for duty anyway, Fast Eddie. But people being soaked up and down the East Coast today, the nor'easter rolling north, flooded a lot of South Jersey, I know, and is now headed up into New York, where there will be some pretty heavy rains and flooding, too. We're continuing to monitor, by the way, Fast Eddie, the president who's about to speak in the Israeli parliament. We'll bring you that when it happens. But sorry to hear you're not feeling well this morning, Ed, and your weekend was... But I suppose you're not alone. I was looking at some of the live pictures up and down the coast of Jersey. Most of those towns were in some state of flooding.
Yeah, I think
over the weekend.
Me feeling a little uncomfortable is, I guess, better than having my a river running down my street or the ocean approaching. Yeah. So those nor'easters are always those are rough because they bring so much rain. But people over the years have built, a lot of people. There are very few, if you've ever been, at least I can only speak to the Jersey Shore line, but there are very few homes still left in the immediate shore blocks off of the beach that aren't built up. Every now and again, you'll still see a couple of old homes that are still kind of ground level. Maybe they don't have basements. Maybe they're just, they likely don't have basements. They're just on a pad or whatever. But most over the years, they've rebuilt their homes after they've been flooded once, and now they've been built up into these magnificent high-rise things where they're effectively built for this kind of flooding and high. In fact, I think after Superstorm Sandy, if memory serves, Chris Christie demanded, I think he made it a law or insurance I think for you to get homeowners insurance, flood insurance in New Jersey, he made it a law that you had to build your home up to certain specs to avoid flooding in the future or something like that. Anyway, we're thinking of all of you folks as you're dealing with a lot of high water and wind and rain there on the East Coast. As we continue to monitor the president there at the Israeli parliament, set to speak here in just a bit, some unusual praise from unusual corners came. Hillary Clinton being one of them over there at MSNBC heading into the weekend. Give me number 58. Yeah, 57 and 50. Yeah, we'll go 57 first. Sorry about that, Paul. Thank you.
It's a really significant first step, and I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region, for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward for what's often called the day after. Most importantly, the conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire. The hostages will be returned. And then the very hard work of rebuilding Gaza, of finding the kind of security that Israel and the Palestinians after Hamas deserve to have, moving forward with the other points in the plan to try to create an opportunity for Palestinians to have a better life and for Israel to have greater peace and security. I am very hopeful that we'll be able to see progress. Today's a good start, but we have to keep going from here.
Boy, you could tell. She looked like she was being held hostage, didn't she? Benjamin Netanyahu now speaking live before the Israeli parliament. I don't know. I suspect he is not speaking English, but we can dip in there and see. Boys, why don't we try this, see what Benjamin Netanyahu sounds like. Okay, we got to switch to that. All right, we'll jump in there here in just a second and monitor that and see what he's saying. Not entirely sure if he's speaking in his native Israeli tongue or if he's delivering it in English, but President Trump set to speak here shortly. Meanwhile, the former vice president of the United States, who's trying to sell a book and nobody really cares, she's still shopping herself as a potential leader in the future. Can you imagine, just for a second, can we all sit with, what if she won? Would we be here had she? Can you even imagine a day like this had she won? I don't know that she has. Well, okay, let's dip in and see what BB has to say here. Let's then, sorry guys, we're trying to jump back and forth here. So give me a little of Cackle Britches here talking about this on MSNBC. Then we'll dip into Parliament. 58.
When this airs, President Trump will be on his way to the Middle East. They have this deal between Israel and Palestine. Both former Secretaries of State Hillary Clinton and Antony Blinken have commended President Trump for the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Do you agree with them? Should he be commended?
Look, I don't think that we should hold in credit where it's due. I mean, first of all, let me say about that deal, I really do hope it becomes real and that the hostages
That's enough. Can she and Mrs. Clinton look any more miserable? I mean, if you saw the video, they both, she's rolling her eyes back in her head, it just scowling. It just pains her. Okay, fine. Yes, we have to admit it. The bastard did it. Ricket. More in a minute. Yeah, those red hats I was mentioning. It says Trump, the peace president. Israeli parliament was passing out these red hats. They look, from a distance as you're looking at the live shot of parliament today. President Trump is scheduled to speak here any moment now. He's sitting behind Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking in Hebrew at the moment to the parliament. So not going to carry that. So I don't know my Hebrew. Maybe you do, but I do not. So once we see the president step up to the microphone, we will certainly carry that live here. On great radio stations like the one you may be listening to, some of our 400 affiliates across the country, or whether you're watching us on the Salem News Channel, which is a totally free app, and you can watch it on your Samsung Plus television or stream it wherever you can. Get the app. It's a great, great app, and it's free, and you'll really enjoy it. Of course, the big top-breaking news story today in every part of the world, the release of the Israeli hostages held by Hamas now for 2 years. Donald Trump personally brokering this historic peace deal. This is something really, really special, and it's particularly a special time for the people at the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews with whom we've partnered. It is really, really cool that we happen to be in the middle of a campaign with IFCJ as this is going on. Singing, dancing, cheering for the hostages in Tel Aviv as that news spread across Israel. Since October 7th of 2023, our friends at the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews have been on the ground every single day, supporting families, including the hostages' families and those who've been returned. And with your help and your donations that have been coming in at chrisstigall.com, right there at the top of the page, if you go to chrisstigall.com, you will see the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews banner. You click on it and give whatever you can. The fellowship, in turn, then takes your donation and provides. They have provided now some $1 million in food and financial assistance to the hostages' families, $5 million in renovations, expansions, and support of more than a dozen resilience centers in Israel, providing mental health support to Israelis of all ages, and so much more. And the fellowship has asked me specifically to tell you they are so grateful for the Christians specifically who have stood with Israel and the Jewish people. It is biblical, of course. It's in Genesis, it's in Romans. Since the horrors of October 7th, the people of IFCJ, thank you so much for your ongoing support. So on this joyous day, your gift of any amount will continue to help rush food boxes to Israelis still who need help and who need that life-saving support, as well as projects that are needed as peace hopefully begins to take hold some 2 years after this war began. It is thanks to you, the generous sponsors and supporters of the fellowship. And incidentally, this offer still stands. There's a generous donor who said everybody that donates anything, he will double it. So you give $5 today to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. This individual, this generous private donor says, I'll double it and make it 10. So whatever you can do, if you're so inclined and you feel moved to get involved and help IFCJ, now, I would strongly encourage you to do it because you can double your impact. chrisstigall.com, right there at the top of the website. Or you can call today, and here's the number to the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, 800-982-8811. 800-982-8811. And thanks in advance for your generosity. All right, so we saw Hillary Clinton and Cacklebritches both puckering, having to admit it was a big day. J.D. Vance, meanwhile, and we've got more Vance a little later on this, but specifically on this action. J.D. Vance making the rounds on the Sunday shows, pledging there won't be any kind of military involvement from us on the ground there, in case anybody was wondering, and number 69.
George, so that story is actually misreported. We already have troops at Central Command. We've had them for decades in this country. They are going to monitor the terms of the ceasefire. And that's everything from ensuring that the Israeli troops are at the agreed upon line, ensuring that Hamas is not attacking innocent Israelis, doing everything that they can to ensure the peace that we've created actually sustains and endures. But the idea that we're going to have troops on the ground in Gaza, in Israel, that is not our intention. That is not our plan. There was a bit of a misreporting there, but we are going to monitor this piece to ensure that it endures. The other piece of good news that's been underreported, I think, George, is that Indonesia and a number of other majority Muslim states, they've actually offered to send ground troops to Gaza to ensure the necessary peacekeeping takes place. That's not something the United States is going to be expected to do. That's something the Muslim world is going to step up and do. And that, again, is because of the Trump administration's diplomacy.
And that is an enormous development. That is probably the most significant development. Now, what George Stephanopoulos was shopping there and what J.D. Vance was answering there, I couldn't help but notice, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this right now, maybe tomorrow. At the Harumph Society today, I begin to unpack something that I have noticed that has kind of, quite frankly, bothered me a lot. There is a really sinister influence out there that is trying to make you, and it kind of depends on where you linger. If you spend a lot of time on social media, you see this more than you would if maybe you're, I don't know, consuming other media or not consuming any media at all, which is not a bad idea, particularly on the weekend. I recommend it. I try my best to stay away until Sundays. But George Stephanopoulos is sort of peddling this notion that the United States is going to get involved and that this is there is a new, I don't know how else to say it. There is a new disdain for Israel that is starting to bubble up, and it is not, we've talked about it here. I have to acknowledge it. It is not exclusively of the left anymore. It is not exclusively of the college campuses anymore. It is also something that some people that I guess I have to call colleague are now building their shows on. And there are a lot of people listening to those shows, particularly, in my view, young white men. Young white men who are really gravitating toward these stridently anti-Israel shows. And even as this is happening, this historic peace that President Trump is overseeing and ushering in, I saw it. And Ed, I hate to be negative on such a positive day, but it is something that I started writing about today and a little later at the Harumph Society. I hope you'll join me. In fact, this bothered me to such a degree, I sat down over the weekend and I put my thoughts down in what's going to take. I didn't want to overwhelm anybody with this, but I started to kind of have an epiphany cooking in my head as to what we're watching and what's going on with this thing that's been haunting me. I've been kind of skirting, nibbling around the edges of. I'm not particularly interested in naming a bunch of names and going headlong at specific people. It may not even be something you're aware of. But if you're spending, again, any time online, specifically on social media, specifically X, you likely know exactly what I'm talking about, Ed, and that is people that even this weekend could not bring themselves to celebrate this moment, but rather look at it as some kind of net negative and even start attacking President Trump over this. And again, it was not coming from the left. Did you see any of this, Ed, or do you think I'm nuts?
No, I did, and it's easy to kind of get caught up here in the winds of the last week, but it's moving into another stage now. As you said, before we identified it, we realized that there was a problem. Now this is ending. This war in Gaza is ending, and it seems like, oh no, the influencer class on that side of it wants this to be sustained. It's not looked at as
there is a group. How big they are, I don't know, but I do know they have prominent audiences, and they are basically telling their audiences that this is not a good development. In fact, this is President Trump now, quote, selling out the country and a betrayal, and that somehow those in Gaza are in more danger or something and under more oppressive rule than ever before. Now, how you come to that conclusion, I don't know, because, as J.D. Vance just said, this is not some sort of militarized occupation by Israel or even the United States. This is going to be co-governed by surrounding Muslim and Arab nations. President Trump went around the region and cobbled together this network of affiliated nations who wanted to see an end to this and said, yes, we will sign on to help govern and oversee this new transfer of power. Israel has said we will pull back our troops, and they've done so. President Trump specifically addressed that, by the way. Number 73, President Trump on the plane traveling over there yesterday. Take a listen.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, has not gone so far as to say the war is over. In your view, is the war between Israel and Hamas over?
The war is over. The war is over, okay? You understand that?
The war is over, and Bibi Netanyahu said, yeah, we are pulling the troops back. And yet, there is this very ugly, sort of unseemly, what used to be just leftist rhetoric, now coming from the right, saying that this is not something to celebrate. In fact, you should feel quite guilty. In fact, I heard one of these, I don't know what you want to call them, podcasters, influencers, whatever, with a huge audience, far bigger than my audience online anyway. And this person said that if Gaza is restored, and this is I'm paraphrasing roughly, but this is more or less exactly the thrust of it. If Gaza is restored, if in fact it becomes a resort destination, if in fact commerce begins to happen there, and it's not the third world hellhole it is now, but that it's in fact rebuilt on a grand scale. President Trump has often said that could be a new Riviera on the seashore there, if in fact people who govern it use it correctly. And it seems that the anti-Israel movement that's online is angry and upset and concerned that in fact that's exactly what's about to happen, that moderate Arab nations are going to govern Gaza now and insist that Hamas no longer rule over the people that live there, the Palestinians. They won't be allowed to take control, and that they actually might redevelop the Gaza Strip into something really premier. And that if that actually happens, this particular influencer said, you and generations of your family will be cursed if you ever find yourselves in a day where you travel to the Gaza Strip and enjoy it. That is literally what this person said, Fast Eddie. If the Gaza Strip is ever redeveloped and turned into what it could be, you and your generations of your family will be cursed if you take part in it. That the President of the United States and the United States having something to do with it is somehow sinister and not good news. I mean, it's really sick stuff. But anyway, I unpack what that's about and why it's finally clicked for me. In fact, again, not to overwhelm you, but I'm doing this in a 3-part series this week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the Harumph Society. And maybe down the road I'll share it. But if you want to read it, today's installment number 1, go to chrisstigall.com and get signed up. I hope that you will. Yeah, so the way I addressed this was in 3 parts. I'm going to tackle this in 3 distinct ways, and it's bothered me, and I think I've hit on why. I think I know exactly why it is. There are so many young people in particular. Young people, and I happen to say young white men. I don't think it's exclusive to white men, but I do think it's young white men. Remember, we've talked a lot about how young men are coming back to the Christian faith. I think that's wonderful. But I also think, believe it or not, I think there are dubious actors who are using Christianity as a weapon. And I think I know why, and I think I know why young men in particular are gravitating toward it and listening to it, and why it seems appealing to them. And I've thought a lot about this, folks. I think because I have 2 young sons who are of this age, and many of their peer groups, and my teenage daughter, who tells me she's at a Christian camp and asks me that if I know who... Again, I hate to even use names, because every time I use names, that just stirs the hornet's nest, and it's really not important. But she asks me if I had heard of a prominent influencer who, I don't know if you want to call him conservative, but he is he's known for his machismo, and, well, I'll just leave it at that. And I think he's a pretty loathsome guy, but he's considered ultra macho. And my teenage daughter's at a Christian camp, and she texts me to say that some of her young male friends who are also at this camp. And these are academically gifted kids, okay? They're at an actual, this is a camp to really dig into the apologetics of the Christian faith, to make an academic argument for your faith. That's the whole point of this thing. It was a two-week deal. And a real privilege for her to get to go and some other students. And she texts me to say, Dad, do you know who this guy is? I said, I do. Pretty vile. And I can tell that she is shocked that some of these boys that are with her are gravitating to this guy. These are thoughtful, smart, young men who think this guy, this influencer, is worth listening to. And he's poison, and he's toxic. But I thought to myself, how can faithful Christians, thoughtful young people, gravitate towards something this vile? And I think I know why. So anyway, go to chrisstigall.com, sign up for the Haram Society. I start part 1 of 3 today. President Trump is getting ready to step up to the microphone, speaking to the Israeli parliament this morning. As we approach the top of the hour here, those of you who are listening to us live on Great Salem affiliates all over the country or watching on the Salem News Channel, we will carry this live until we have to take a break, but we will come back with it. I assume the president's going to be commenting for a while here, so stay with us. We'll continue to bring this. But as the president approaches the podium, we'll listen in here. Benjamin Netanyahu just wrapping up his remarks. They're sharing a couple of words and having a hearty handshake, standing there. Lots of red hats, as I said earlier. The peace president, say these red hats. An homage to the red MAGA hat. It's really something to see. All 20 Israeli hostages returned, those who are living. And Israel going to release Palestinian hostages today. President Trump now stepping up to the microphone. Many people in his ear. Let's jump in here and listen to some of it anyway before we got to go to break.
Come on up, opposition. Come on, opposition. Yeah, okay.
Nope, I thought we had it. Okay, I thought we had it, but we don't seem to have it. I'm not sure why. But anyway, he's stepping away from the microphone anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't know. They baited him into coming up to the microphone, and then he stepped away again. All right. Let's pivot to this story about the surrounding Arab nations. President Trump will host an international summit at the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh today. And this meeting will finalize an agreement aimed at ending the war in Gaza. This came from an Egyptian spokesperson over the weekend. The summit will be attended by more than 20 leaders. This is probably the most important part of this entire arrangement that shouldn't be missed. And this is the thing that it has lacked. This is the thing that no other president has been able to pull off. Stitching together, and I think a lot of it has to do with his first term and the Abraham Accords that were struck before. The financial incentives here. President Trump is a businessman. And I think he has made a business case to these moderate surrounding Arab and Muslim countries. There is a business case to be made to invest in Gaza. And I think that is exactly what so many people, these loathsome creatures who have been buying and selling influence on social media and trying to convince you that this is a bad thing, I think there are hostile, insane Islamist types that are funding a full-scale propaganda war to convince you and me that this is somehow a bad development and discourage moderate Muslim and Arab nations to, one, get involved in doing business with Israel, and two, try to restore the Gaza Strip into something that is a destination and actually beneficial to the people who live there. I think Islamists have a deep desire to derail this and are spending boatloads of cash from wherever that comes to influence the conversation here in the United States. That's what I think is going on. In short, and the president stitching together this agreement today, he's going to go to Egypt and talk with these neighboring nations. That is huge. That's the part of this that cannot be overstated. Hey, are you ready to drop serious weight before the new year? Yeah, come on. I'm talking about at least up to 20 pounds. I bet you can even lose more than that, but at least 20. PhD Weight Loss is the trick. They've cracked the code with their metabolic reset system. This is a science-backed method that gets your body to burn fat first. It's worked so well for me. I lost over 40 pounds in just 4 months' time. I feel fantastic. This program is so simple, guys. They tell you exactly when to eat. They tell you what to eat. I'm the kind of guy, just tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what to do. That's what they do. They customize the program to your body's needs and your specific schedule. PhD Weight Loss is the only program that guarantees success and your results. No starving, no endless workouts, no risky drugs. Just a smarter system that resets your metabolism. It shrinks that dangerous belly fat. It keeps the weight off, most importantly, for good. Now, when you call, if you do it today, they're going to waive your consultation fee. You'll get 2 extra weeks totally free. And they'll cover the cost of your food during the program. And just for booking, you're going to get Dr. Ashley Lucas's book, 5 Steps to Reset the Scale. It's quite a deal. But you got to do it quickly because this offer is only good until the end of October. Come on, lose weight with me. Call now. Mention the code New Year. Call 864-644-1900 and mention that code New Year. 864-644-1900 or visit the website myphdweightloss.com. 864-644-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. Good to be with you, ladies and gentlemen. A live look at Tel Aviv this morning. The streets teeming with very, very happy Israelis. Happy Palestinians in Gaza as they're flowing back in. And there's happiness all around. If you're not on social media. Now, if you spend any time on social media, I warn you, and today at the Harumph Society, I unpack some of this. There are people, and you should just be forewarned that there are people, maybe people that you watch, people that you listen to, who are telling you that this is not a good day for some reason. I have my reasons, and I explain them today in a 3-part series that I put to bed this weekend called the Harumph Society. I hope you check it out. This is a particularly important one to me. Maybe down the road I'll share it. I just don't. It's heavy. It's pretty deep, and I'm not entirely sure the best place for it is here on the show. At least not yet, until I can figure out how to better communicate it. I had to sit and kind of write it out, and I wrote out long enough that I thought, I don't even want to give this to you in one Harumph Society newsletter, so I've made it a 3-parter this week. Go to chrisstigall.com to what I hope will clear up any confusion. And again, you may not even know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, that's okay. That's better. You're better off for not knowing what I'm talking about. But if you spend time on social media, odds are you are seeing very conflicting messages from strange sources, people that you would think are Trump allied, who are now telling you that somehow this is not a great day or not a good development. I believe I have some insight as to why. So anyway, that's at chrisstigall.com. Get signed up for the Harumph Society. You know, President Trump said something on Air Force One, headed over there. I'm not sure why. He's about to speak, by the way. We're monitoring Parliament there in Jerusalem. He's about to stand up and speak, and when he steps up to the microphone, we'll bring it to you. But he said something to Peter Doocy here again. This subject of heaven and him getting to heaven came up. Give me number 71 here, Paul. This is what President Trump said about getting into heaven. Take a listen.
You had talked a couple weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, you know, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven, okay? I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly in Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven. But I've made life a lot better for a lot of people. And, you know, as an example, had the election of 2020 not been rigged, you would have...
So I just thought that interesting. President Trump is stepping up to speak now, and we're going to join that. But I've got some thoughts on this business of President Trump saying he doesn't think he's heaven-bound. More on that in a minute. Here's President Trump live in Jerusalem this morning.
It's a great honor. Nice place. Very nice place. Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, esteemed members of the Knesset and cherished citizens of Israel, we gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham,
Isaac, and Jacob. After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death, and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. I want to express my gratitude to a man of exceptional courage and patriotism, whose partnership did so much to make this momentous day possible. You know who I'm talking about. There's only one. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Baby, please stand up. And he is not easy, I want to tell you. He's not the easiest guy to deal with, but that's what makes him great. That's what makes him great. Thank you very much, baby. Great job. And let me also convey my tremendous appreciation for all of the nations of the Arab and Muslim world that came together to press Hamas to set the hostages free and to send them home. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of help from a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect. And I want to thank them very much for that. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. And it's pretty unusual for you to see that, but it happened in this case. This was a very unusual point in time, a brilliant point in time. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East. It's going to work together. I'd like to thank several great American patriots for their invaluable help in getting something done that almost everyone thought was absolutely impossible. We were wasting our time. So many people said, "You're just wasting your time." But we weren't, because we had talented people working with us, and we had people that love your country, and frankly, people that love the region. They love the Middle East. I want to thank my friend Steve Witkoff. You know, Steve was chosen by me. He never did this before, but I knew him as a few things. He was a great businessman, but I know a lot of great businessmen, to be honest with you. He had tremendous negotiating skills, but I know a lot of people that negotiate pretty well, although it is an art. But there are people that can negotiate pretty well. But most importantly with Steve, he's just a great guy. Everybody loved him. Everybody. I mean, I know some negotiators that are so good, but you wouldn't have had peace in the Middle East. It would be in World War III right now with some of these guys. Everybody loves Steve, and they respect him, and they somehow can relate to him. I've known him for many years, and I've seen it over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה.
Please expel this Knesset member. Please expel this Knesset member. Please expel Knesset member Kasif out of the hall. Please expel him immediately.
Okay. This actually might be a good second to break in here. The interruption here, President Trump, those of you listening on the Salem Radio Network, we will jump back into this in just a little bit. We're watching on the Salem News Channel live at the Knesset where President Trump is addressing the Israeli parliament, and he was interrupted by a protester there. So they're removing the protester. President Trump is continuing his speech. The parliament is erupted in some applause to kind of reset the table a little bit. So this would be a good time for us to take a quick break anyway, because we need to. We will continue to bring you the live remarks from the president right after we return from this break on the Salem Radio Network and the Salem News Channel. Thanks for joining us this morning on a historic Monday morning. Great to be with you, continuing to carry President Trump's remarks live in Jerusalem. He's speaking to the Knesset. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, spoke just before President Trump. Many people hailing that speech as one of the best speeches they've ever heard Netanyahu give. One commenter here on X said maybe the best, certainly the best if he wants to remain prime minister. After those remarks, the odds that Trump endorses him for re-election have increased. The only question left is how many schools and other public buildings in Israel will be named after Trump, or maybe how many won't be. Mark Halprin is one of those who made the comment on X this morning. President Trump continues to speak. He was interrupted by a protester. We think it was actually a member of the Knesset, not just some random guy, so that was interesting. But President Trump giving lots of thanks to everybody from his daughter to his son-in-law Jared to Steve Witkoff, his ambassador, Pete Hegseth. He's acknowledging, or about to, I believe. So let's join the president's remarks in progress again live this morning in Jerusalem.
And he's turned out to be even better than we thought. Right, Susie? I think even better. And that's Pete Hegseth, who is our Secretary of War, formerly Secretary of Defense. And as you know, we decisively won World War I. We decisively won World War II decisively. And everything in between and everything before it, we won everything. And then they had the brilliant idea of changing the name from war, it was war, to defense. And with that went a certain thinking. And we fought in a very politically correct way after that. We always had the strongest military, and now we have a stronger military than we've ever had before. Because of my first term, I've totally rebuilt the military, every aspect of it. But we have, if you think, we settled 8 wars in 8 months. I'm now including this one, by the way, if that's okay. They may say, well, that was quick. Because yesterday I was saying 7, but now I can say 8. The hostages are back. The hostages are back. It is a good feeling. Isn't that nice to say? You know, I just said the hostage. First time I said the hostages are back. It feels so good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him, he's going to go into war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, and my personality actually is all about stopping wars. And it seems to work. Seems to work. But it also means this name change and our attitude that we're not going to go into a war. But if we do, we're going to win that war like nobody has ever won a war before. We will not be politically correct, but we're not going to be there. And I think, you know, as you mentioned, Bibi, before, peace through strength. And that's what it's all about. The United States has the greatest and most powerful military in the, right now, history of the world. I can tell you we have weapons that nobody's ever dreamt of. I only hope we never have to use them. I rebuilt the military. I was proud to do it, but some of the things I hated to do. I hated certain of the weapons because the level of power is so enormous, it's so dangerous, so bad. But we have to do what we have to do. We make the best weapons in the world, and we've got a lot of them. And we've given a lot to Israel, frankly. And
all right, we're listening to live coverage this morning on the Salem News Channel and all across the country on our great radio affiliates, 400 strong. My name's Chris Stigall. Thanks for tuning in today. We will continue to carry the president's remarks. Palestinians streaming back in by the thousands into the Gaza Strip. Some 2,000 Palestinians going to be returned by Israel in this deal. 20 Israeli hostages have been returned alive and well this morning. Donald Trump speaking live this morning at the Knesset in Jerusalem before the Prime Minister as well as the Parliament of Israel. It is a remarkable day, a historic day. Every key member of President Trump's cabinet has traveled to Israel with him where he is speaking. We're going to continue to join these comments because this is history we're living, and we want to carry as much of it as we possibly can here. So let's listen in to the president, again live this morning in Jerusalem.
Sergeant, everybody was like central casting. They could go into a movie right now. Between him and you guys over here, we could get rich making movies, okay? And they got along so great. That's the beautiful thing, that your military and our military, Bibi, got along so great. But I was told by the television generals in Washington, we have the best equipment in the world. Why is it taking so long? And they said, 4 years. I said, so let me ask you, Raisin, how long would it take you to defeat ISIS? Sir, we can do it in 3 weeks, but you'll probably have some time left over. I said, you gotta be kidding. What the hell are you talking about? They said 4 years. I said, well, sir, look, it's not my place to say, but you're asking me the question. What you have to do is you hit them from the west, you hit them from the north, you hit them from the south, you hit them above, you hit them below. I said, so why didn't they do it? And he didn't want to speak badly of his superiors, which is hard to believe they were his superiors. It should have been the other way around a long time ago, because he's the one that did Operation Hammer. It was flawless. It was flawless. It was absolutely flawless. And I said, so you really think you can do it in 4 weeks? Yes, sir, 100%. You have to do it differently than they were doing it. They were using one base and it was hundreds of miles away. And he says, we have all these portable bases all over the Middle East. And they didn't want to use them because they didn't want to offend the country where the portable, they wouldn't have even known what the hell the planes were going up, right? They wouldn't have known, but he said, no, they didn't want to defend anybody, offend anybody. And but we can do it in 4 weeks. I said, you sure about that? I'm going to call you back. I'll call you back on Monday. I'm going back to Washington. But you think 4 weeks? Yes, sir, I think we can do it in 4 weeks. We'll have time left over. So I called him on Monday. I said, you think you can do it? 4 weeks. I said, go ahead and do it. He did it. I'll tell you, he did it in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks. So, General, stand up, please. Again, this is a real general. This is not a television general. He doesn't want to go on television. He doesn't want to go on television. I said the other guys love being on television. So we dropped 14 bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally, as I said originally, obliterating them. And that's been confirmed, and everybody understands it. Together we stopped the #1 state sponsor of terror from obtaining the world's most dangerous weapons. And if you think about it, if we didn't do that, and assuming we made the same deal that we have today, there'd be a dark cloud over this deal. And #1, it wouldn't happen because the other Arab and Muslim nations really wouldn't feel comfortable making the deal that we have now, right? If Iran had that nuclear weapon that they were about 2 months away from having. They would have had it in 2 months or maybe less than that. They were right at, this was our last shot. They looked at it for 22 years. This was our last shot. The pilots told me that. They said, 22 years, sir. They looked at it. Our predecessors looked, they studied it. 3 times a year would do drills on that exact attack. And boy, did they get it right. But let's assume they didn't, and let's assume there was large-scale nuclear weapons in the hands of Iran. We couldn't be here today. Even if we signed the deal, which we couldn't do because a lot of people would not want to have anything to do with it. We took a big cloud off of the Middle East and off of Israel. And it was my honor to help. But isn't it true, though, that can you imagine the same, let's assume, Bibi, the same documents, we had everything the same, but you had somebody out there that was, in the opinion of everybody, all-powerful in the Middle East. They took a big hit, didn't they? Didn't they take a big hit? Boy, oh boy. They got it from one side, from the other. And you know, it would be great if we could make a peace deal with them. And I think that's made. Would you be happy with that? Wouldn't it be nice, I think? Because I think they want to. I think they're tired. Somebody said, sir, they're starting their nuclear program again. I said, let me tell you something. They're not starting anything. They want to survive. The last thing they want to do is start digging holes again in mountains that just got blown up and start. They're not doing it. They want to survive, okay? But I think we have a chance. Steve, you, and I think Jared, come on, I'll call you back for another one. We always bring Jared when we want to get that deal closed. We bring Jared, but Steve, you and Jared and the General and Pete and Marco, you'll get that deal done easy. I think that'll be easy. But first we have to get Russia done. We got to get that one done. If you don't mind, Steve, let's focus on Russia first, all right? We'll get it done. In Lebanon, the dagger of Hezbollah, long aimed at Israel's throat, has been totally shattered. My administration is actively supporting the new president of Lebanon in his mission to permanently disarm Hezbollah's terror brigades. He's doing very well. And build a thriving state at peace with its neighbors, and you're very much in favor of that, I know. And it's good things are happening there, really good things. And with this week's ceasefire, we've achieved the most challenging breakthrough of them all. The most challenging breakthrough maybe ever. I mean, I've never seen anything like. I've been involved in a lot of success. I have never seen anything like what's going on today all over the world. People are dancing in the streets, not just in Israel. They're dancing in the streets of countries that would have never danced in the street about what's happening today. They're dancing in those streets. So this long and difficult war has now ended. You know, some people say 3,000 years, some people say 500 years, whatever it is. It's the granddaddy of them all. And in an unprecedented achievement, virtually the entire region has endorsed the plan that Gaza will be immediately demilitarized, that Hamas will be disarmed, and Israel's security will no longer be threatened in any way, shape, or form. So Israel, with our help, has won all that they can by force of arms. You've won. I mean, you've won. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. It's about time you were able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Mr. Opposition Leader. He's a very nice opposition leader. I think, no, he's a nice man. Bibi, he's a nice man. Good. He knows what he's doing, right? No, a very nice guy. Well, see, now you can be a little bit nicer, Bibi, because you're not at war anymore, Bibi. But only by embracing the opportunities of this moment can we achieve our goal of ensuring that the horrors of recent years will never happen again. You don't want to have to go through this again. 8 years ago, I came to this region on a very special first trip abroad as the President of the United States. I came here very early at your request. I addressed the leaders of the Arab and Muslim world gathered in Saudi Arabia and said that it was time to build a future free of the grip of extremism and terror. And I'm interestingly right now, as soon as I'm finished, I'm quite late. You've kept me quite late between opposition leaders and Bibi's brilliant but very long speech. I thought I was going to run up here, make a speech, and then head to Egypt. It didn't work out though. And you made a pretty long one too, Sarah. But I liked what you all said. It could be worse. Supposing on top of it, I didn't like what you said. That would be no good, Ron, would it? Ron, you did a great job, by the way, Ron. So I'm going to be meeting, actually, in a little while, I'm going to be meeting with the most powerful, the richest nations, really, in the world. Although now, with the tariffs, the United States is by far the richest nation in the world, as you probably have been reading. But the richest nations, most powerful nations, tremendous, headed by some tremendous people in many cases. Some cases I wouldn't say necessarily I would endorse. But I will tell you, some incredible people that really helped us make this all possible. So I'll be going there. I'll be quite late. They might not be there by the time I get there. But we're going to give it a shot. But the journey we started back then led to the crushing defeat of the ISIS caliphate, to the monumental Abraham Accords, and ultimately to the historic ceasefire this week, in which many of those same nations really played a very pivotal role, I have to tell you. Steve will tell you that. Jared will tell you that. Together we've shown that peace is not just a hope that we can dream about. It's a reality we can build upon day by day, person by person, and nation by nation. And because of that, the Middle East is finally ready to embrace its extraordinary potential. You have extraordinary potential in this region. It should now be clear to everyone throughout the region that decades of fomenting terrorism and extremism, jihadism and anti-Semitism have not worked. They haven't worked. They've been a disaster. They've just killed. They've killed.
President Trump speaking in Jerusalem live this morning, saying, I'm going to be late to Egypt. I've got a meeting there to get this thing locked up. Running late. Bibi's brilliant but very long speech kept me late. We'll jump in if he's still speaking on the other side of this break. I watched this morning. I'm watching this historic event as you are, as we're all listening and watching. Looking live at Palestinians streaming back into the Gaza Strip. We're looking at 20 families reunited with their loved ones, these living hostages released today. President Trump orchestrating it all. Some 2,000, some of you taking issue. Again, have a little grace and just settle down and breathe. I apparently incorrectly said 2,000 hostages. I meant prisoners. Everybody just calm down. 2,000 prisoners that Israel kept from the Palestinians are to be released in this deal. The point is, a peace deal has been struck. It is a huge development. The living hostages have been reunited with their families, and neighboring Arab and Muslim nations are going to get involved. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu are headed to Egypt right after he finishes this speech that he's delivering as we speak. They're heading to Egypt to sign off on what is effectively a management group for Gaza going forward, making sure that Hamas cannot reconstitute itself and wreak havoc in that region again. At least that's the hope. So with that, President Trump still speaking. Let's continue to listen in.
As you can see, it's a lot. For these countries, it's relatively little relative to their worth. It's really a lot of money like most people could never even conceive, but for these countries it's not that much, especially because it ensures success and stability in the Middle East, which is what they want to see. So many of them will be with us in Egypt in a little while, I think. I'm not sure. They may be gone. They may have taken their Boeing 747s and left. I said, what kind of a plane do you fly? 747. I said, that's a large plane. No, they may have, Steve, do you think they've left on their their brand new Boeing 747s? Or, I don't know. We're going to find out soon. It's going to be a big story. There'll be 2 people left, and they'll be the 2 poorest ones. But it will be the wealthiest and most powerful group of nations. So the group that we have assembled, that's waiting for us, is the wealthiest and most powerful group ever assembled at one time. There has never been a group like this. And they're only looking for good. They want good. They're going to do good. And as those commitments are made, I'm going to let the world know who's doing it, because they really deserve to get the credit. And some of them probably won't want the credit, but they deserve it. It's more obvious than ever that the productive and responsible nations of this region should not be enemies or adversaries. You should be partners and eventually even friends, and that's what's going to happen. I know it. Together you can stand against the forces of chaos. Yeah, you go ahead. That's an important point. Because you can stand against the forces of chaos that threaten all of your interests, and it's always a big threat, and unleash incredible prosperity and opportunity for all the people of these lands, and that's what's going to happen. You're going to unleash numbers and success, the likes of which Israel has never been able to think of, because you're so firm, and you should be, and you've done the right thing in defending yourself. You're not going to have to worry so much about it. You've won, and now you can build, and you can do things that you never even thought possible. When you put that genius into doing something else, it's going to be something it's going to be a miracle. The miracle in the desert, it's going to be amazing. And it already is in a true sense. But it'll be wonderful when you can spend time thinking about other than war and defense and offense also. To that end, it's my firm hope and dream, frankly, that together the Abraham Accords will turn out to be everything that we thought they would. Those 4 countries were very, very brave in doing it. They did it at a very early point, and every single one of them benefits unbelievably financially. And if you noticed, even in this bad period that we just went through, they all remained a member of the Abraham Accords. They've done unbelievably well. And you know who you are, and I want to thank you. And they've stayed because of loyalty, but they've also stayed because it was really good business. They've made a lot of money being members, and you're going to all, I hope that every one of the countries that we're seeking, Jared, I hope they join quickly. No games, no nothing. Just join, get it. It's going to be a great peacemaker. It's really going to bring it together beyond anybody's wildest dream. So instead of building fortresses to keep enemies at bay, the nations of this region should be building infrastructure to weave your commerce closer together, because you've got to compete with the big world out there in commerce now. It's a different kind of competition. Instead of making weapons and missiles, the wealth of this region should flow to schools and medicine, industry, and frankly, the new hot thing, artificial intelligence. It's a lot of intelligence they're going to have to be thrown off to pay back these sums of money that they're doing.
All right, that's President Trump probably coming to an end, his remarks there at the Knesset in Jerusalem. He's speaking before the Israeli parliament. We'll kind of recap some of his remarks here after the top of the hour, but really just an amazing day. He and the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, going to travel to Egypt, sit down with some Muslim and Arab neighbors, and finalize this deal. MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you're not going to find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88, any color, any style, and any size, even the king size. Regularly priced at $119.98, now only $29.88. Once they're gone, though, they're gone for good. My Towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regularly priced at $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time, and the only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens starting at $17.98, kings at $19.98. And for a limited time, when you order over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. 800-932-5056, promo code Chris, or use that promo code at mypillow.com, promo code Chris. Live look at Tel Aviv, folks gathered watching outside a big day, a big speech. We've been carrying it all morning long. President Trump speaking before the Knesset, before the legislative body of Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu will be traveling with President Trump to Egypt today. President Trump says that he hopes this will become an age of faith, hope, and God. He said, my personality is not about war. He was commenting on when he was running against Hillary Clinton, threatening, suggesting that he would be a wartime president and a war hawk and angling for war. He said, no, my goal is to stop wars. He got a standing O to that. He commended his general, Raisin Kane, who he says is not a TV general. He's there to do business. He talked about obliterating Iran's nuclear facility. He complimented Benjamin Netanyahu, who spoke before him, his brilliant but long speech. Trump's supposed to go to Egypt right after this, and he says he's not sure anybody's going to be around because they've kept him late. Although Trump is still speaking. And he says he hopes instead of fortresses, these Abraham Accords and the neighboring Arab and Muslim countries, along with Israel, instead of fortresses, they can now build infrastructure. Instead of weapons, they can now invest in medicine and schools and things like AI. Let's go ahead and join the president, who continues to speak this morning live in Jerusalem, as I'm sure he's probably coming to a conclusion here. Let's listen in.
Over the past 2 years, I've met many of the families of the Israelis taken hostage and those that were taken hostage. Unbelievable. I've looked into their eyes. I've seen the worst nightmares of their suffering, but I've also seen something else, the beautiful love of the people, the love of People, frankly, that hold things together, the love that gives you the courage to carry on through thousands of years of persecution and repression, and to emerge with the heart of David. It's the heart of David. It's that love that's defeated the enemies of civilization, built this incredible country and this unbelievable economy, and forged one of the great democracies of the world. That is why it's a true honor to stand here today and address this assembly in your ancient and eternal now capital, Jerusalem. I'm proud to have helped in that regard. This city and this nation stand as living proof that a much brighter future for this entire region is truly within our grasp. For thousands of years, Jerusalem has been a home to Christians, Jews, Muslims, and people of all ethnicities and creeds. This is the holy center of the world's three great Abrahamic faiths. I like that too. Adorned, it's the first time I've seen that word in a while. Adorned with their sacred sites and alive with their pilgrims and visitors from every corner of the globe. But here between the Western Wall, the Temple Mount, and the hill called Calvary, people of every faith and background live, work, pray, serve, and raise their families side by side, and they do it with love. This example is just one of the modern miracles that Israel has given to the world. And just in closing, the leaders in this chamber know better than anyone else the challenges of this harmony, and it's been easily won. No, it hasn't. It has not been. It's been so tough, but it has been, some say, a miracle. What you've done is a miracle. Look at your size. Look at your chances when it all started. And you know, if you think about it, you are safer today, stronger today, and more respected today than at any time in the history of Israel. Think of it. People used to say it wouldn't exist. They don't say that anymore, do they? Yet if safety, security, and coexistence can thrive here in the winding alleys and ancient paths of Jerusalem, then surely peace and respect can flourish among the nations of the broader Middle East. The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good, to seek peace and pursue it. So he still whispers truth into the hills and knolls and valleys of his magnificent creation, and he still writes hope into the hearts of his children all over the world. And that is why even after 3,000 years of pain and conflict, the people of Israel have never given up from the threats of Zionism, from all sorts of threats. You want the promise of Zion. You want the promise of success and hope and love and God. And the people of America have never lost faith in the promise of a great and blessed future for all of us. From the very first day that modern Israel was founded, we have stood together through thick and thin of setbacks, and through victory and defeat, through glory and heartache. We have built industries together. We have made discoveries together. We have confronted evil together, and we have waged war together. And perhaps most beautifully of all, we have made peace together. And this week, against all odds, we have done the impossible and brought our hostages home. So now we're going to forge a future that is worthy of our heritage. We're going to build a legacy that all the people of this region can be proud of. New bonds of friendship, cooperation, and commerce will join Tel Aviv to Dubai, Haifa to Beirut, Jerusalem to Damascus, and from Israel to Egypt, from Saudi Arabia to Qatar, from India to Pakistan, from Indonesia to Iraq, from Syria to Bahrain, Turkey to Jordan. the United Arab Emirates, to Oman and Armenia, to Azerbaijan, another war that I just settled. We are going to have hope, harmony, opportunity, and happiness here in the spiritual and geographic center of the entire world. That's what you are. Israel, America, and all of the nations of the Middle East will soon be safer, stronger, greater, and more prosperous than ever before. And I want to thank you all once again for this exceptional honor. This has been truly an honor. It's seldom that a president is invited to do this. And I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger, and more loving than ever before. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the Middle East. Thank you, everybody. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. There you have it. That's President Trump. Live this morning in a pretty unprecedented speech for a lot of reasons. You don't do this much. Katie Pavlich, our colleague there at Town Hall, posted on X a little earlier this morning that traditionally there are not claps. You don't applaud. Apparently, I didn't know this, but apparently in the Knesset you don't. There is no such thing as applause. You're not to do that there. President Trump clearly breaking that tradition as thunderous applause happened time and again. Standing ovations happened for this American president. I'd have to go back and look to see if this has ever happened to an American president before at the Knesset. I don't know. I would suspect certainly not like this. And among the things he said now, as he and the Prime Minister are taking off for Egypt, he said he wants to make this region safer. He says Israel specifically is safer, stronger today than at any time in history. He says he hopes hope and harmony and happiness has now returned to the center of the religious world. He concluded by saying, I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. God bless the Middle East. He ticked off all the neighboring Arab and moderate Muslim countries that he hopes will come to the table. He told his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's still very much a part of the initial Abraham Accord negotiation and trying to bring, I guess, other nations to the table to participate. He's been making the sale to them that this is a business transaction as much as it is anything else, and that if they'd come to the table and join in this, they can all be very, very prosperous, very, very wealthy for a long time to come. Of course, the big news, the return of 20 hostages. You know, it was pointed out, sadly, that of the hostages that remained, the only ones returned were the 20, all men. It should be pointed out, there was not a single female hostage left alive, which is something to consider when you're thinking about the scourge of Hamas and who they are and what motivates them and the kind of people you're talking about here. Nevertheless, as part of the deal, 2,000 Palestinian prisoners Israel held will be released. They got the 20 living hostages back from Hamas. Quite a day. We're living history. Thanks for joining us here on the Stigall Show as we unpack it together. More in a minute. You know, I have to tell you that as a Bible-believing Christian, this is really something to watch, and it happens to be at a time that I am literally in a book of the Bible leading. I think I told some of you in this audience that I was privileged and challenged with the invitation to co-lead a Bible study before church. Some people, I don't know whether you like the term Sunday school or not, but anyway, it's an adult gathering of people before church where we study Scripture. And so I was asked, if I would co-lead with a group of other men in a rotation, if I would help lead the group through Romans. And I said, well, okay, that's a big ask, but I'll do it. And it just happened to coincide with all of this, and I've been spending time in Romans, and you should know, and I spent some time this weekend writing this at the Harump Society too, because as we're watching this history in Israel, particularly if you're a Bible-believing Christian, it is so critical to understand your Bible. It is, and I'm not lecturing from a place of sanctimony, because I'm no theologian, nor am I well studied or well versed and well read in every chapter and verse of the Bible. Of course, I'm trying to get better. I'm actively working to get better, and spending time in Romans is interesting because it is so specifically fitting. Romans 11 in particular. I would encourage you, any Bible-believing Christian, whoever you may be, whatever faith, denomination you may be, I would strongly encourage you to spend some time in Romans 11. Study it and read it. Because there is an element on our side, and again, I'm not interested in the left. The left is what the left is. The left is full of venom and hatred for just about everything. Our country, anything that is Western civilization, natural rights, personal freedoms. The American left hates all that. They're Marxists. They want anarchy. But it is so critical to understand the importance of Israel in our Christian lives, and what Paul writes about Israel being the root and we are the branches. It is literally in Scripture. And I was reading it this morning while the president was speaking. Paul specifically, and again, I don't mean to preach to you. I know that's not why you come here, but I just want you to spend a second with it. Do not boast over those branches. If you do, consider this. You do not support the root. The root supports you. The root being Israel. That's who Paul is talking about, Christian brothers and sisters. So he says don't support, if you don't support the root, it is the root that supports you, and you will fall off and you will be cut off. Just as many, by the way, in Israel are now. And I don't know. I don't know what role President Trump plays in all of this. I can't possibly know. This is a very, very special and I think historic and significant spiritual moment. Some people believe, Dinesh's film The Dragon's Prophecy. I mean, it kind of depends on how deep you want to go with this and where you want to take it. And again, I am no theologian, nor am I giving you theological advice or analysis. I'm not. I will just tell you that this is stirring something in me. I feel very much, if you want, the Holy Spirit weighing on me right now, encouraging me to lean into this and understand its meaning, at least for me personally. And by the way, while I'm at it yesterday, if I could for a moment, I'd like to say that my son, Drew, who I think I told you about in a previous show or two, I told you that throughout this entire mess with Charlie Kirk and kind of the haunting way in which this has really hung in the air around young people, they are seeking again. Young people are seeking again, and there are people that are out there that are trying to take advantage of those young people. And so I spent some time this weekend writing about this, writing about Israel, the kind of bubbling anti-Semitism that I'm seeing on our side, a lot of kind of revisionist history, people that are suggesting Christianity is almost a blunt force instrument with which we should hammer people of Israel, Jews, and the like. It's really disconcerting. And my son Drew this weekend gave his life to Christ in baptism. He came to it on his own, and I'm so proud of him for being a Bible-believing Christian. It's all good, folks. I guess my point is it's all good. And I got a lot on my heart and a lot on my mind, and I'm going to write about it starting today and all week long at the Harumph Society. I hope you'll check it out. I'll have more to say on this in future shows. Erin Maguire coming up. Man, what a day. What a time. We're watching folks celebrating in Tel Aviv this morning. 20 hostages still alive. The remaining living hostages all returned to Israel today under President Trump's supervision. He just wrapped up about an hour speech with lots of applause at the Knesset in Jerusalem, a very uncommon sight. Benjamin Netanyahu spoke before that. Together, the two of them will go join a summit of Arab and moderate Muslim nations who have agreed to help govern Gaza. Hopefully that Hamas will not take root again and have control over that region again, as many Palestinians are moving back into the region, literally as we speak, thousands of them making a pilgrimage back into what has been a very decimated area. There's no doubt about it. And will it be rebuilt with some new hope for commerce? And, President Trump and so many people have said that region, that Gaza Strip, is something that could be developed into something really remarkable, commercially, economically, if only it had the right leadership. And maybe President Trump has installed that. And it got the applause, as we played for you earlier, of really unexpected folks. Grudgingly maybe, but still, everybody from Hillary Clinton to even Kamala Harris. Here to discuss it, our great friend, Republican strategist Erin Maguire, who's a household name, by the way. Everywhere she goes now, people recognize her. Happy to report, people even recognize her from this show, I found out. Good morning, Erin. How are you?
Good morning, Chris. I'm doing great. How are you? What a great day for the world. The hostages are free and in Israel. It's incredible.
I'm not sure how we quantify this. You hate to talk about it purely as a political thing. I mean, because, obviously there are human lives involved here, and this war has gone on for 2 years. How much credit, though, politically, globally, here at home, does President Trump specifically, how much credit does he do here, in your view?
Yeah, President Trump deserves all of the credit here. He brought this team together, including Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, to lead the negotiations, to free the hostages, and to bring home those who were still their bodies held by Hamas. This is a major geopolitical victory for the world, and I believe that this does cement Donald Trump as the most geopolitically significant leader in American history for the good of global peace. Yes, there have been world wars that have been ended by America and American greatness, but these were wars that have been started by other nations that, without having to put an ounce of American bloodshed on the ground, has radicalized the world and ended wars and conflicts. And today, the hostages are home. That means that families are now reunited with their loved ones. Children are hugging their fathers, mothers hugging their sons. And it is because of the leadership of Donald Trump. All of these people have come to the table, like Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, to give Donald Trump credit because he deserves it. And this is what global leadership looks like. So many people said that if Donald Trump became president once, let alone twice, it would mean World War III. If there's ever an opportunity for introspection on the hyperbolic nature of political rhetoric in the United States, I believe this is the moment for that, because this geopolitical victory for the world with Donald Trump at the helm shows you how off base all of that inflammatory rhetoric is. This is one of many historic days that Donald Trump has had on the world stage.
I can't get out of my mind that springtime trip President Trump took, Erin Maguire, to the Middle East. And he, in fact, did not go to Israel. And I remember at the time people said, this is unprecedented. He takes a Middle East trip. His first item of business over in the Middle East is to go to all these surrounding nations, and he doesn't even stop in Israel. Now we know what was going on. Now we know the conversations that were going on behind the scenes. It seems that this spring he was laying the groundwork and having conversations some time ago, maybe about this day, but he's brought people in to this conversation that I don't know any president has ever managed to accomplish this before, and it seems he's doing it as a business deal. He even said it in his speech today. I think he's convinced these people it is better and more profitable for them in the long haul to play nice with Israel instead of trying to either aid in their destruction or, stand at the sidelines as an observer and do nothing.
That's right. And when you look at this in its totality, what Donald Trump has done, you can go back to the Abraham Accords to truly look at the groundwork. And that was before this war with Hamas started, the violence on October 7th under Joe Biden that really started this war. But Donald Trump has been laying the groundwork to bring Middle Eastern countries together to protect Israel through their own sovereignty and having other nations acknowledge that sovereignty. Because a lot of the geopolitical rhetoric there is that Israel should not be a state. Donald Trump changed that, and he's continued to use that growth. You heard in Bibi Netanyahu's speech today as well how he talked about how Donald Trump recognized the Golan Heights and how he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Each of these steps had fortified Israel as a rightful nation in the Middle East, made them stronger, and it has brought their partners as neighboring nations to the table as well, because they understand it is not just bluster. There are real results when it comes to protecting Israeli sovereignty with the United States at their back and Donald Trump as president. We have seen that now, and it is just incredible to realize that yet again, Donald Trump is playing chess when the rest of the talking liberal lunacy media would have you believe he's playing checkers.
Meanwhile, back at home, J.D. Vance was sent out to the Sunday shows to tackle all the various left-wing hosts. You know, we're still in the middle of a shutdown, Erin Maguire. Stephanopoulos didn't want to talk much about that. He was trying to pummel J.D. Vance on things like troops in Illinois or Letitia James being indicted. Let's go with a little of this if we want. And by the way, Vance never misses a beat. In number 68 here, Paul, if you would, please.
Well, I think that Governor Pritzker has allowed a lot of people to be killed in the city of Chicago and elsewhere, George. I think that it's disgraceful, and I think that he absolutely should suffer some consequences for the fact that there are thousands of innocent Chicagoans who are dead because he failed to do his job.
It's really a yes or no question. Do you believe he's committed a crime?
George, you're going to keep on asking this question. I'm going to keep on telling you that Governor Pritzker has failed to do his job. He should suffer some consequences. Whether he's violated a crime, ultimately, I would leave to the courts. But I certainly think that he has violated his fundamental oath of office. That seems pretty criminal to me. I'd leave it to a judge and jury to decide whether he's actually violated the crime.
Yeah, and just one more. This is Stephanopoulos peppering him about other things than the shutdown, which is what J.D. Vance wants to talk about, by the way, in number 70.
I don't know what tape you're referring to, George. I saw media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It was very, very clear, Erin Maguire. Lindsey Graham was on with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. She wanted to talk about Letitia James. Chuck Schumer wanted to talk about Letitia James and mortgage fraud. I mean, that's the point. None of these people want to talk about the government shutdown and why it's going on.
Democrats love to distract from the fact that they are hurting the American people with this shutdown. They are more focused on providing taxpayer dollars, the money that comes out of your and my paycheck, for illegal immigrants to have health care. And now the media has moved on from the narrative that that's not true because the White House, the Speaker of the House, the Senate Majority Leader have all proved the media wrong yet again in their reporting because illegal immigrants, that is what the Democrats are trying to do here. So now they've gotten off that talking point, so they try to distract the American people now. And I have to say, I work with a lot of candidates, a lot of clients across the country. Those two answers from J.D. Vance might be some of the best, and I might use them in training for other clients. He did a great job pushing back on the premise of the question of dismissing George Stephanopoulos without getting exacerbated, and then bringing it back to the core message and the core our reality that Democrats are the one who are causing single mothers to go without the food that they need. It is Democrats who are now causing Republicans to scramble to make sure our United States military members are paid. It was a masterful answer, and J.D. Vance is a great messenger for this administration. And Democrats and the media cannot keep up with either him or Donald Trump because they don't want to face the reality they're hurting the American people.
I've heard it reported, Erin, that the Democrats want to keep the government closed at least through this coming weekend for their big No Kings rally this Saturday. Are you hearing that? Is that true? And is that politically tenable? Because, I'm going to be flying this week, and I'm dreading it because I think as this goes on, we're all but assured flights are going to start being delayed, and I'm not crying. I know there are people that are really in need that need the government to be open for more important things. But my point is, when you start hearing about mass delays and flights and people not being able to get where they need to go, the pressure will mount. Can Democrats continue to play fast and loose with this?
Democrats always play fast and loose because they believe inflicting pain on the American people is the way to maintain political power for themselves. They are the ones causing these issues now. And instead of doing the work, coming to the table and saying, let's keep the government open and let's get the appropriations process working, Democrats refuse to do any of their portion of their job right now and don't care about the consequences because they believe it is more politically advantageous for them at this moment to be the party of no. They continue to hear from their Democrat base that they are not fighting enough against Donald Trump. I think that's where Democrats have remained disconnected from the American people. The American people don't want them to fight Donald Trump. The American people want Democrats to work with Donald Trump to deliver a stronger economy and geopolitical peace across the world. It's astounding to me that Democrats have decided to never listen to the American people on what they want and instead try to dictate what the American people should believe.
She is a great communicator. She teaches others on our side of the aisle to communicate. That's why we have her every Monday. We call it Mondays with Maguire. She's Erin Maguire. Great to catch up again. Thanks for the visit.
It's always good to be on with you.
Looking live at Egypt and the Red Sea hotels in Egypt. That's a beautiful looking scene. The president and the prime minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, going to be traveling there to sit down with neighboring Arab and moderate Muslim nations as they talk about the future of Gaza and its governance, I presume. That's the component of this story I'm most interested in, frankly. As this war is brought to an end, prisoners are released from Israel, hostages are released from Hamas. Hamas is not packing up and leaving. Palestinians are coming home. Palestinians, remember, voted to put Hamas in charge. So can these moderate neighbors help eradicate governance and rule and reign and terror and control and authority over Palestinians? Can they liberate Gaza? Can they develop Gaza into a place of commercial tourism and commerce? It's ripe for it. It would be wonderful if they could, but they've got to get rid of a corrupt Islamist regime in Hamas. And I'm hopeful. I'm prayerful they can achieve it. Because if they do, it is a game changer. It's a game changer for Israel and all of Israel's neighbors who can then start to engage in commerce and live alongside one another, at least economically, in peace and benefit, mutually beneficial relationship. I would be remiss if I didn't tackle this one more time, just because it's important. And I don't know if this is something that I hope someday, if I ever have the chance to talk with President Trump about, and I do, I hope someday I'll get to talk to President Trump about this. He was asked by Peter Doocy on Air Force One on the way to Israel, again, about his admittance into heaven. And this audio clip, listen closely as he's asked about this, if this peace deal helps get him into heaven. And listen to President Trump's answer here. In number 71, if you please, Paul.
You had talked a couple weeks ago, you were doing an interview, and you talked about how you hope to end the war in Ukraine because it might help you get into heaven. How does this help? Does this help?
I mean, I'm being a little cute. I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven, okay? I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I may be in heaven right now as we fly an Air Force One. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people. And, you know, as an example, had the election of 2020 not been rigged, you would have millions of people living just in Russia, Ukraine alone.
So I can't know. I mean, no one can know President Trump's heart. Is he joking? Is he being glib? I don't know. Some people would say, that's just him joking. I don't know. I don't know what his relationship truly is in his heart of hearts. I know he has declared Christ his Lord and Savior. I know I've heard him say that in previous speeches. Has Donald Trump truly repented of sin in his own life? Has he given his life to Christ as the way, the truth, and the life going forward? Has he done that? I don't know. We can't know. It was a great saying that my pastor used the other day in a Bible study. He said something like, we can't know who the elect are, meaning the elect to heaven. We can't know ultimately, but we can nominate and help nominate as many people as possible. We can't know who the elect are, but we can help nominate as many people as possible. Much like the Nobel Peace Prize. I'd like to nominate President Trump for heaven, but I want him to know Jesus is his Lord and Savior, and I want him to know that there's nothing he has to do to earn admission into heaven. He can't earn it. There is nothing here on planet Earth you can do to earn it. It is a free gift if you come to Christ and if you repent of your sin. And that's it. It is that simple. And I don't know. I don't know whether Trump jokes. I don't know what his mind and heart are like in the quiet by himself, if he closes his eyes and thinks about this or not. It's just, if he means that when he says that to Peter Doocy, I don't think there's anything that's going to get me into heaven. Yes, there is, Mr. President. And it's much simpler than Middle East peace, actually. I just felt it was important to revisit that. Because anybody that hears him say that, I want for them to experience that just the same as President Trump. I want him to experience that. I just felt I needed to bring it up. The First Lady. You know, I can't help but think about when Michelle Obama, you remember when those girls were kidnapped years ago and by a bunch of radical jihadists in Africa, and Michelle Obama started a hashtag campaign, Bring Back Our Girls, on then Twitter, held up the little sign, hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. Barack Obama did nothing. There was no physical action to retrieve those hostages from that ghoulish band of warlords. Meanwhile, this is remarkable. Michelle Obama, First Lady Melania Trump, and I have the audio, although I don't know if I have much time to get there. Let me try. Let me get to it really quickly. Yep, give me number 4264. Listen to this heading into the weekend. Remarkable.
With each other for the benefit of all people involved in this war. My representative has been working directly with President Putin's team to ensure the safe reunification of children with their families between Russia and Ukraine.
Okay.
In fact,
so all told, 8 children reunited with their families Thursday after years of separation. First Lady Melania Trump announced that she got between Russia and Ukraine and renegotiated children's release. That's the First Lady. Wow. What a couple, the Trumps. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.